Deep strike thriller. Lone Ukrainian jet obliterates Russian command hub. In a war defined by grinding attrition and entrenched front lines, this was a moment that defied all expectations. On October 11, 2025, the impossible became reality. Newsrooms across the globe scrambled to verify the story, as the world's attention snapped to a single, stunning event. An aging Ukrainian fighter jet, a relic from another era, penetrated deep into Russian-controlled territory and destroyed a key command center. The mission was as daring as it was unexpected. The base, once a symbol of Russian power and invincibility, was reduced to a smoldering crater. The destruction was total, buildings flattened, infrastructure obliterated. The message was unmistakable: nowhere is safe. Even the most fortified positions could be reached and destroyed by a determined adversary. This wasn't a fleet of stealth bombers or cutting-edge drones, it was one determined pilot in a 30-year-old machine, flying against all odds. The mission was audacious, some called it suicidal. The pilot knew the risks, but also the stakes, a chance to change the course of the war. The target, a fortified logistics and communications hub, protected by layers of advanced air defenses, radar arrays, and anti-aircraft missiles. It was considered untouchable. Ukraine's Air Force Command gambled on skill, ingenuity, and the element of surprise. Every detail was meticulously planned, every risk weighed. The risks were astronomical, the pilot's chance of return was slim. Yet, as dawn broke, the lone jet taxied down the runway, watched by a silent, anxious ground crew. But the potential reward was too great to ignore. A successful strike could cripple Russian command and control and send a message that would echo far beyond the battlefield. The world watched, breath held, as whispers of a massive explosion behind enemy lines began to circulate. Social media lit up with speculation and unconfirmed reports. Satellite images soon revealed the devastation. Buildings flattened, ammunition depots erupting in secondary explosions, fires raging out of control. The scale of destruction was undeniable. The operation shattered the perception of a static, grinding war. Suddenly, the front line seemed less permanent, and the balance of power less certain. Ukraine proved it could strike with precision and lethality anywhere. The world saw that ingenuity and courage could overcome even the most daunting defenses. The Russian command was shaken, forced to question their own security and technology. Their confidence, once unshakable, was now riddled with doubt. The Kremlin's silence was deafening. No official statements, no explanations, just a void where certainty used to be. They had been caught off guard. The shockwaves rippled through every level of the Russian military, from the front lines to the highest command. The world was about to learn how a single jet, flown by a pilot with nerves of steel, rewrote the rules of modern warfare. Analysts scrambled to understand what had happened and what might come next, and the questions were just beginning. How did it happen? What would Russia do in response? And could this be the turning point everyone had been waiting for? The aircraft at the heart of this raid was a Sukhoi Su-27, codenamed Flanker by NATO, a $30 million relic, precious to Ukraine's limited air force. Sending it solo was a high-stakes gamble. The Su-27 is no stealth fighter. It should have lit up Russian radars. The pilot, a seasoned veteran, knew his only chance was to become a ghost, flying nap of the earth, hugging the terrain at terrifying speed. One mistake meant disaster. The mission plan was a masterpiece of intelligence and audacity, threading through radar blind spots and valleys. The route was a digital needle through a haystack of threats, but the real secret, a fusion of old and new Soviet airframe, Western weapons, making them work together was a technical puzzle. If solved, this aging fighter could become a giant killer. The stakes had never been higher. The challenge was daunting. How do you attach a modern American JDAM bomb packed with cutting-edge technology to a Soviet-era Su-27 fighter jet designed decades ago for a completely different kind of war? This was more than just a technical puzzle. It was a collision of two worlds, East and West, old and new. The jet's avionics spoke a different language, literally and figuratively. Every switch, every display, every wire was built for Soviet munitions, not American precision bombs. Ukrainian engineers became masters of improvisation, working long hours to build a custom pylon equipped with its own computer and GPS. They had to bridge decades of technological evolution, inventing solutions on the fly, often with limited resources and under immense pressure. This adapter was a marvel of ingenuity. It tricked the American bomb into thinking it was riding beneath an F-16, not a Soviet warplane. The bomb's sensors and circuits were convinced, ready to respond as if nothing was out of the ordinary. The pilot couldn't rely on advanced targeting pods or real-time guidance. Instead, target coordinates had to be carefully preloaded before takeoff, demanding absolute precision and trust in the ground crew's calculations. His mission was simple in theory but nerve-wracking in practice: fly to a precise point in the sky, at the right altitude and speed, and release the bomb at exactly the right moment. Once released, the custom pylon's electronics would take over, guiding the bomb on its way. The pilot could only hope everything worked as planned. It was a blunt but effective solution, never before tested under such extreme and dangerous conditions. Every mission was a leap of faith. Any glitch, no matter how small, could doom the mission, risking not just equipment, but lives and the outcome of the battle. The engineers had created a true hybrid monster, Eastern steel fused with Western silicon, a symbol of innovation born from necessity. Now it was up to the pilot, alone in the cockpit, to see if this unlikely creation could actually hunt and strike its target. The fate of the mission, and perhaps much more, rested on this fragile technological bridge, one that could collapse at any moment. Success or failure would echo far beyond the cockpit, shaping the future of warfare and the hopes of those on the ground. Takeoff was routine. What followed was anything but. The pilot dropped to meters above the ground, using terrain masking to evade radar. At over 900 km/h, the world blurred past. One mistake meant death. Fuel was a constant worry. Every second counted. The flight plan left no margin for error. The pilot's focus was absolute, eyes flicking between the ground and his gauges. Turbulence battered the jet, demanding constant corrections. He flew over abandoned villages and battle-scarred landscapes. A stark reminder of what was at stake. This was no exercise. It was a lone spear tip aimed at the enemy's heart. Emotions were luxuries he couldn't afford. Only the mission mattered. The hum of engines, the feel of the stick, and the relentless ground below. Every second was survival. The razor's edge was getting thinner. As he neared enemy lines, the digital world turned hostile. The once familiar hum of the cockpit was now underscored by a sense of unease, every instrument a potential liability. The sky outside was deceptively calm, but inside, the threat was invisible and everywhere. Russian jammers, like the notorious Krasika, blinded GPS and scrambled his instruments. The cockpit, once a sanctuary of precision, became a battleground of flickering screens and distorted signals. Every beep and flash could mean disaster. The digital map died in an instant. The screen went dark, leaving him cut off from the digital lifelines he'd trained to trust. Suddenly, he was on his own, forced to rely on skills that felt almost archaic in the age of modern warfare. Mission planners had expected this. Electronic warfare was a certainty. He reverted to dead reckoning, a method as old as flight itself, tracing his route by memory and calculation. Stopwatch ticking, airspeed steady, heading locked in. His only guides were a paper map strapped to his knee and the analog dials before him. Each second was measured, each mile a calculation in his head. Landmarks, a river bend, a patch of dense forest, a railway line cutting through the landscape became his only signposts. He scanned the ground, matching features to his map, every detail a lifeline in the digital void. The jammers attacked more than navigation. They flooded his radar warning receiver with a barrage of false alarms. The cockpit filled with urgent tones and flashing lights, each one demanding attention, each one a possible threat. Was that a real threat, or just noise? The line between danger and deception blurred, forcing him to make split-second decisions with incomplete information. He had to trust his instincts, filtering chaos for the true signal. Training and experience became his shield, helping him separate the real dangers from the digital ghosts. Suddenly, a hydraulic warning light flickered, a new crisis layered atop the digital confusion. He rerouted fluid from a backup system, hands steady despite the stakes. The warning light went out for now, but he knew it could return at any moment. The jet was showing its age, every vibration and groan a reminder of years in service. The metal skin bore the scars of countless missions. Every system was under strain, the aircraft pushed to its limits by both the enemy and the relentless demands of the mission. He pressed on, knowing the next failure could be fatal. There was no turning back, only forward, through the gauntlet of electronic warfare and mechanical uncertainty. The digital minefield was as deadly as any missile, an invisible enemy that could strike without warning, leaving no trace but chaos. Survival depended on skill, luck, and nerves of steel. In this new era of warfare, only those who could master both machine and mind would make it home. The first real threat struck fast. A fire control radar locked on. A Panzer S1 below had found him. Instinct took over. Full afterburner. Hard left. 7 Gs. 2 missiles streaked skyward. He dumped chaff, dove lower, and used terrain to break line of sight. The missiles, confused, detonated harmlessly above. But now, every air defense battery knew his direction. The hunter was now the hunted. He pressed on. The target was minutes away. Another warning light. A flight control computer failure. The Su-27 felt sluggish, wounded, but the launch basket was close. He fought the controls, pushing the failing jet to its final task. 90 seconds to make history. The mission's success, and his survival, hung in the balance. Every move mattered. The climax was near. The target appeared, a sprawling complex just as intelligence predicted. The pilot stabilized the damaged jet, lined up for release. Nose up, bombs away. 2 JDAMs dropped. He didn't wait to watch. Survival was now his only focus. The bombs, guided by their own systems, flew autonomously. Russian jammers tried to disrupt them, but the JDAMs switched to inertial navigation. A Russian Hind helicopter nearly crossed their path. The bombs adjusted course in microseconds. On the ground, the base was oblivious. The low-flying jet had gone undetected. The command center was about to face destruction from above. The bombs made constant adjustments, locked on target. For the men below, it was just another day. Until it wasn't. The sky was about to fall. The strike was seconds away. The symphony of destruction had begun. The first warning at the Russian base was a strange whistle. Soldiers looked up, confused, then realized too late. No time to run, no time to shout. Inside the bunker, a radar operator saw 2 fast contacts, terminal dive. Automated guns fired blindly, reacting to sound, not targets. The bombs struck. One vaporized the communications building, the other collapsed the command bunker. Secondary explosions ripped through ammo depots and fuel farms. The base was obliterated in seconds. Defenses had failed, the reaction was too late. The Russian war machine lost a vital cog. The cost was catastrophic. The scramble was over before it began. The pilot landed his battered Su-27 at a secret airfield, fuel nearly gone. Ground crew marveled at the damage and his survival. He had done the impossible, but the mission's true impact was strategic. Satellite photos showed a Russian base wiped off the map. The strike caused chaos and paralysis at the front. Ukraine proved that ingenuity could overcome overwhelming odds. Old Soviet hardware, new Western munitions, a playbook for asymmetric warfare. Russia's billion-dollar defenses had been outwitted by a low-tech, low-altitude approach. The cost to Russia went far beyond one base. It forced a strategic rethink. The message, nowhere is safe, and innovation can change the course of war. This was a turning point. A single flight that changed the game. The world would never see air warfare the same way again.